Hello everybody, here we are today recapping day one of NHL Free Agency and just kind of talking about a few things. So before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yesterday, of course, was super crazy, and one of the things that kicks off right before the official start of free agency and whatnot is Sam Reinhart getting an 8-year extension. And this was a big deal for the Florida Panthers as they are recently coming off of winning the Stanley Cup, where you had Reinhart get the game-winning, series-clinching, cup-winning goal in that Game 7. And he has been a great player for them over the past 2-3 years and is somebody that probably deserved to get a decent amount of money. And for this deal, I'm not necessarily saying that I hate it by any means. I think he could have probably gone out there and argued for more money from different teams. So I'm just excited to see the fact that he is going to be with a team where he's getting consistent playoff opportunities. Whether or not that's going to stay consistent throughout all these years, with it being an 8-year deal, I don't know. But he spent the first 7 years of his career with the Buffalo Sabres, and obviously they're still in the middle of a playoff drought. So for the Panthers to be able to keep him and say, yeah, we want you back, we want you to be here to possibly run this thing back and get another championship, while it will be a much more difficult road, I think, this year, that was cool to see, even though he probably was one of the biggest fish you wanted to see him sign. Now, in terms of other big fish in free agency, you saw Jake Guentzel, of course, sign a contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, this was weird because you had Guentzel play for the Pittsburgh Penguins last year and then the Carolina Hurricanes, but the Hurricanes traded his rights to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And wouldn't you know it, they're able to get a deal done. They signed an 8-year extension, I believe maybe it was 7 years, for over $60 million. And this is going to be a very interesting thing to follow for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they are a team that in recent years has fallen off of the Stanley Cup contention kind of mindset, if you will, or at least perception. So by having Guentzel, are they necessarily going to be a lock to suddenly be the favorite to win the East? I don't really think so, but I do think this is a fun move that in the short term could give us an insight as to whether or not the Bolts are going to get back to being in the Eastern Conference Final, in the Stanley Cup Final, all of those things, because Guentzel did play well in the regular season. He played well in the playoffs and was able to contribute to some great, things like scoring chances and all those things during the playoffs, and was able to help this Carolina Hurricanes team maybe not go as far as they wanted to, but they had points where when Guentzel was out there, things were going really well for them. Tampa Bay is hoping that things can continue to go well for them. They have the star power. They had a little bit more. The only thing that's a little weird is I think he's about 30 right now, so it's going to be something to watch out for the back end of this. But again, I think Tampa Bay is more focused on the short term rather than the long term. In 5 years from now, they probably aren't thinking, oh yeah, we're going to be able to contend, and this deal probably shows that. Speaking of the Tampa Bay Lightning, their fans are probably really unhappy as they go and see their captain, who's played so long for them, Steven Stamkos, go and sign with another team. This seemed like it was going to be the case, unfortunately, as Stamkos and the team wasn't ever able to get close to the deal. It seemed like the biggest issue was money, but also the length of the deal. I don't know how true this is, but we heard reports that the Lightning were trying to give him an 8-year deal at $3 million, and then there was reports that he wanted $5 million. I don't know necessarily how all that played out, but certainly when you have the Nashville Predators offering you a 4-year deal for $8 million a season with $32 million deal, it would be hard to turn down, especially if you feel like you're being disrespected, in the words of Steven Stamkos, by a team you've done so much for. But of course, this is big news too for Barry Trotz and the Nashville Predators, because they were a playoff team last year that got bounced early but still was really fun, and we were never able to figure out for a good chunk of the season what they're going to be. How are they going to fit into the puzzle of the NHL regular season? And they are right back in that spot again where you're like, man, the Predators may not be a true contender, but they are going to be that team where you say, how well will they perform, especially with a lot of these additions, as they were very busy in free agency. Washington has made trades to get better recently, whereas Nashville has made some signings. Speaking of Nashville, again, they went out and they signed Jonathan Marchessault to, I believe, a 5-year deal, and this is another player that played for a team that he won a Stanley Cup for and was a part of very good times for the Vegas Golden Knights, that also just wasn't able to get a deal worked out with his team, that being Vegas. And also, from what we're hearing, seems like he felt, not happy about how that was all playing out. But he is coming off of a 42-goal season, so you're seeing 2 veteran players, 2 guys that have been able to play in the Stanley Cup Final, that have been able to win it, that are now joining Nashville as they are a little bit older. But the Predators finished with 99 points last year. Are they going to get better? I can't necessarily guarantee that, but I do know that even if this team is able to be in the playoffs, they will be a fun team. Are they going to go out there and win the division? Let's say no, but let's say that they get to the first round And you have Stamkos, you have obviously some of the other guys that were there last year, the Yusei Saros extension. This is all kind of proof that Barry Trotz is trying to make this team competitive in the short term, at the very least. Long term, maybe if they're all playing well while they're older. But you have Nashville fans looking at this and probably thinking, well, there's no reason we can't at least pay attention to them next year, because they should be a fun bunch with all the big names that other fans from other teams are going to say, we wish we wouldn't have let them go. But sometimes with the salary cap, it is what it is. And then you have the Washington Capitals. I recently did a video over Washington being a more fun team to watch next year, as they'd acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Mangiapane, and then Logan Thompson. And then they went out and traded to get Jacob Chychrun, and then they signed Matt Roy to a, like 5-year extension? I can't remember what it was, not extension, but a deal as he leaves LA. The blue line should be very, very fun to watch this year. The offense, like we talked about in that video, could be better. And Washington is a team that, after what they've done in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, or whatever it is, I feel like I would be a little bit more inclined to say they could be a, not playoff lock, but I feel better about their chances compared to where they were 2 weeks ago, where they were a fringe team. I would say that they should have realistic expectations of trying to make the playoffs. If they don't, I guess we'll see what the narrative is with injuries and performance and all those things. But yeah, Chychrun, I think, is the big name here in terms of the offense. He had that really big season, and a lot of people feel like they're probably chasing that thing if he'll be able to get back there to it. It is a name that draws a lot of attention, I think in part because of the fact he is a goal-scoring defenseman, or he can be, and then have that big year. Now, we'll see what happens here. But yeah, the Capitals are a team that has been wheeling and dealing with all of these trades, and it's not all related to just certainly free agency, but Chychrun is somebody that's going to be playing for a contract this year, as I believe he has just 1 year left on his deal. Washington, congratulations. And then the final big deal that we're going to be talking about is the Jacob Slavin contract. As Slavin signed an 8-year deal for over $50 million. Slavin is not going to probably be a Norris favorite every year because of the fact that his points total is going to be a lot lower, but he is somebody that's contributed greatly to what the Carolina Hurricanes have been able to do in recent years, and I am happy that he's been able to go out and get that money and be able to stay with the team that he's seen a lot of that success with. I do worry a little bit for not necessarily Slavin, but the Hurricanes, because for a long time I've been very high on Carolina, saying, oh yes, they're a good team, maybe they can break through. I really was hoping that it was going to be this year, but I do also feel like with some of the contracts they're handing out and some of the things we've seen in recent years, I don't want to say that Carolina's window is certainly closed, but I do think that maybe some of their best opportunities are passing at the moment. But either way, I could care less in the fact that you're talking about Jacob Slavin and the fact that he was able to get that money. So for him, congratulations. I hope he's able to play well, but I also hope Carolina is able to play well with him or for him and all that in the contract that he's got going for them, and win just at least one championship. To be able to see them do it would be great, and also would kind of go with that narrative that hockey in the South is thriving in recent years, as you have the Lightning winning 2 championships and then the Panthers adding Carolina to that list would be kind of fun. So I will wrap up my thoughts on free agency, and I'm not going to give you a whole list about winners and losers, but I'll kind of do a quick rundown of some things that I thought about. The Nashville Predators are seen as big winners here, as they get, of course, Steven Stamkos. They are able to get Jonathan Marchessault, they get Brady Shea, and are a side that I think should at least be in contention for the playoffs next year because of those additions. Had they been able to just do what they did last year, I don't necessarily think with that roster that they were a lock by any means. But now with this bunch, maybe they score a lot more goals, and you have the potential for some of these guys to be big name players again still, despite the fact they've been dealing with some injuries, that they are a little bit older. They are a team that I would say is much more fun to watch compared to last season, but they still had some pieces there that were good. Obviously, Roman Josi finished as second in Norris voting. Usually Saros, you know what he can do if he can have a big year. So for Nashville fans, again, be excited. Now on the flip side of that, if you are the Vegas Golden Knights and that fan base, you're probably not super thrilled. They get every year a little bit further and further from that group that was able to contribute to all the success they had. As you see some of these guys get traded, Marchessault, of course, I said his name wrong. Marchessault is still going to be somebody that you think about as a player that had 25 points in that playoff run in 2023. He was paired with guys like Chandler Stevenson that is now with Seattle. So seeing all this play out, it's unfortunate to know a lot of these guys are gone, and it's not always on the best terms. And for fans of the team, probably hoping just next year you can still compete and contend. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, as they had the most man games lost last season, but they did still lose pieces. So if they deal with more injuries next year, they deal with some players that are older, the fact that they continue to lose pieces, that they traded away some assets, it's understandable. Also, Tampa Bay, another team that is losing some of those pieces from that championship run that they had, and you see guys like Stamkos going. Unfortunately, you never wanted to see that. Mikhail Sergachev was traded, and it just seems really weird because Tampa Bay Lightning, at least on Twitter or X, they didn't want or seem to post a lot about Steven Stamkos as the draft got closer. It was more about guys like Hedman and things like that that you saw on there. I can't say that that was the case for other platforms and social media, but seeing that kind of felt like the writing was on the wall that, yeah, he wasn't going to be back, and you're seeing some fans that are happy and then are angry during free agency. That is very normal. And then final thing, of course, there were some deals that you're probably not a huge fan of. The Lindholm deal with the Boston Bruins. As a Vancouver fan, I'm glad we didn't necessarily give him that amount of money. Obviously, a good thing for a player to go out there and get that money, but he was not the impact player that I was hoping that he would be. So for Boston to get him while he had a year, especially with Vancouver, that wasn't up to par with what you expected, giving him the 7 years especially, I think is a little bit scary. As for some other things, you have the very cheap and I thought good deal extension with Jonathan Drouin and the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado needs cheap deals. Drouin probably knows that this is going to be his best opportunity to get another big year, as of course playing with McKinnon and just having a really, really good season. Maybe he just continues to stay in Colorado taking cheap deals because he knows he's going to get more opportunities, or maybe he uses this for a chance to get more money somewhere else. But yeah, Colorado needs cheap contracts, and they were able to get that with a player that will probably have, a 50-point season. And then I think Casey DeSmith signed a 3-year deal for very, very cheap. Not saying that this is going to be the best deal in free agency, but him playing on Dallas, maybe this is going to be something where he is good. A whole lot of other things going on in NHL free agency though. What are your thoughts on this? And let me know all those down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go to fuck your right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.